What's going on, guys? It's your boy Don't Whenever back at it again. As we prepare for the draft in this episode, we did get an interesting trade offer right before the draft. It's basically a lefty for a lefty, as they do have Trevor Rogers for the Marlins. He's pitching god awful with a 7 and had a 5.4 ERA last season, but he is still under team control for the next 3 years. And he is a lefty. We do need a lefty in the lineup, a potential at that. So we do know that he's going to get better with time. Obviously, he's already got major league experience, but definitely needs to improve. And they're willing to give him up for Alex Wood. Looks like the Marlins are in a position to kind of get ready now for the postseason. And we're more of a team that is pretty much in rebuild mode, as at this time we're about 12 to 15 games under 500 in the division with the Dodgers and the Padres. So we know you can't be 15 games under and think you're going to do anything. So we do take that trade, adding us another guy who could potentially be an ace for us, a very good lefty. Hopefully his ratings and his numbers so far do not match up, so hopefully they will eventually match up and we can get that ace to be our number 2 guy with Logan Webb. Him and Harrison should make a very lethal lefty duo. And as far as I'm concerned at this point, we don't care how bad he is, because the more games we lose, better pick we can get next season. This ain't the NFL or the NBA, but we definitely pretty much tanking. But we do add another lefty, which is also important as well. Kind of get more, because as you can see with the relief pitching in the starting lineup, we only have 4 lefties out of the whole rotation. It's nice. It's always nice to add another mixture into the bunch. Even though we really just traded lefty for lefty with Alex Wood, we get a potential guy that can be with us for a few more years, because I was pretty much letting Alex Wood go anyways. So I felt like that was really good trade value for us. But it is time to go into the draft. As I was starting to make my draft board, obviously I did put the number 1 guy just in case he doesn't get picked. You never know. We did want to add Todd McCain, one of the guys that we have been looking at for a while and we've seen on previous episodes. Murdoch looked good and we only had 20%, but you never know, just to kind of get an idea of what might be out there. Duvall was another interesting prospect that we had looked at during the scouting process. I'm intrigued with his exam being opted out. It does make it a little scary, but you never know. Sometimes the ones who opt out turn out to be the best players. Ibarra, another guy that we were looking at, we did put into the draft queue, even though I'm a little nervous to use a first-round pick on him with his potential being so low, with the highest being 87. Blanchard was another good starting pitcher. The only thing I didn't like about him was his hits per 9 was very low, and so was his home runs, but everything else seemed to be solid, so we did add him onto the list. And so it was Villalobos, as he shows to be one of the best second base prospects, even though MLB has him ranked a lot higher, so we're not sure if he'll get drafted or not. But that pretty much rounded it out for the people that we wanted to put on there, and we get into the first overall pick, as we are picking 6 teams, so we got a little ways to go. The first pick was who we thought it would be, in Donnie Dennis, a guy who is injured right now, but he looks to be the best prospect in the minor league system now, getting drafted by the Pirates first overall. You know that he must be really talented if he's injured again, still getting picked at first overall. But the next guy is Spencer Key, who seems to be a guy with limitless potential, as his high is 99. So we're definitely interested to see how he turns out to be for the Nationals. And then the third pick for the Detroit Tigers is going to be Pedro Guzman, another strong starting pitcher who did opt out of his exam, so maybe that'll be the same thing for some people that we might want to pick. But basically all pitchers for the first 3 picks, as we're pretty much in the same boat trying to get to that pitching up. But we do just simulate to get to our next pick, as Villalobos, a guy that we just mentioned, does go 4th overall. So it looks like The Rangers are looking for that replacement for Simeon when he does look to leave in a couple of years, as he is getting up there in age. I'm not sure if the Rangers still want to pay him after that. But we do send him to our next pick and kind of look over to see if any players that we wanted to get were drafted. And actually, pretty much almost all of them were. Morris Murdoch was drafted 8th. B.J. Clark was drafted 10th. As we look, Todd McCain was also drafted about 3 or 4 spots before we were. Nathan Masters was drafted. Julio Abar was drafted by the Angels a couple picks before him. So basically, most of our board that we put on for a first rounder was gone. But Mark Duvall is still there. We don't necessarily have a pressing need for an outfielder, but with Ramos not doing too well and Matos not doing too well and Arias being the only one who's having a solid season, we definitely could look for an outfielder. Blanchard was also another interesting one. Very high stamina guy, but the hits and the home runs per 9 definitely scare me. But Duvall is kind of right there in that range that we projected him to be, being 21st, and we're picking 16th. Corbett seems to be a high overall but lower ceiling guy. Looks like to be more of a second round value guy. And same thing with Blanchard. So with Duvall being our only first round person that we have left on the queue, we do end up going with Duvall, the 5'9" monster. And we look to have a star of the future. 4-year junior, can play all the outfield positions. We're hoping he could be a stud, so that way if Ramos or Matos don't feel up to the task, we can get him. Really couldn't find a need pick really at that spot, because there wasn't too many second baseman, third baseman, first baseman, other than the ones that we looked at that were highly ranked in this draft. So we just went with the best player available, and I do believe that was Duvall. But in the second round, we do take a deeper look into Blanchard, as this is about the spot where we projected him to be, being a 38th pick, a 38th ranked player in our board, even though draft rank doesn't even have him ranked at all. So we definitely we're interested in looking at him, but I also want to take a look at the remaining prospects that we had to kind of take a look. Lucius Pollock, gotta love the name Lucius, looks to be a stud, but we only have 5% scouted on him. He is the 20th ranked player based on our initial scouting report. So he definitely looks to be a highly ranked guy. And we do need relief pitching. So definitely wouldn't be a bad guy to look at. And that's who we decided to go with, guys. We decided to go with the higher potential guy. The guy who has a chance to have some filthy stuff on him, even though we didn't get scouted. With that being our round 1 compensatory pick. So then we go with that comp pick and go with Blanchard, since we got an extra pick to go with that. Hey, that's immense value. I feel like getting a guy that was a first round grade, getting him on the compensatory pick, getting him later on in the rounds when I think he should have been picked at the time we got our relief pitcher. So honestly, I feel like we got a little lucky, but we were able to bolster up that pitching rotation and our relief pitching unit for the future. As we get into the later rounds, definitely wasn't sure what to pick. This guy was one of the higher ranked guys available, but his hitting looked atrocious. Ray St. John was also another guy. Carrillo looked like he could possibly be a good bench bridge player. Kind of a guy that maybe bridged that gap later on in his years from the minors to the majors. Kind of a guy we can use on the 40-man. But looking around, doesn't look like it's really too much talent. Even the ones that we do have some scouted doesn't seem that much. Like I said, guys, this wasn't a fairly deep third base draft. That's really what I wanted to look for and try to increase, or first base, as even the ones that did go in the top 20 weren't even that great. So it really wasn't that much to look for. So we ended up adding another outfielder in Bruno, as we did go a little heavy on looking for right fielders, as we do look to replace Mitch Haniger. And then as we move into the 4th round, one of the more higher rated guys and scouted guys with very high potential in Alton Baker. Wasn't really sure what we get out of him other than his speed, but he does look to be a solid player. As I look to see anybody else that we had that was scouted any higher than him, to kind of get a better analysis of what anybody else would look like. But considering he was the most highly scouted and he seemed to be the most ready, that's who we went with, guys. And after that, I just simmed the draft because we just let the computer get the last pick or two, because I wasn't really sure. We wasn't able to really get too in-depth with the scouting, as the players I was looking for just weren't there. We was looking for, you guys saw through other episodes, looking for third baseman, first baseman, second baseman, infield, and this was not a deep infield draft. It's definitely more of a pitching and outfield draft. But we are getting into the home run derby, as Mitch Haniger is up there in home runs. Unfortunately, he was not able to make the All-Star game, but he was able to participate in this home run derby, being in the top 10. Facing up against some pretty tough guys, kind of the usuals in Jordan and Pete Alonso, Austin Riley, Trout. But we do have some new guys like Julio, like Bo Bichette, and Trace Thompson with Mitch Haniger to make this a pretty interesting one. I'm pretty surprised about Julio, but he definitely has that pop on him. And him playing a whole season, I can definitely see how he can be up there in the home runs. But as you guys can see, we are going up against Austin Riley in the first round. So let's get into the action. Obviously, everybody knows pretty much the new setup rules for the home run derby, as Bo Bichette is having a fantastic season, hitting even better than his dad did when he played. Looks like he might turn out to be a Blue Jay great, but he does get out homered by Mike Trout 15-14. As we look into Mitch, and even though he is up there with the power numbers, that average is probably what kept him out of the All-Star game, as we wish he could have kept it in the 250s, 260s. But as we watch some of the dingers, guys, we gotta just look over the team and talk about what we're gonna try to do for these next upcoming seasons. So with us drafting, after the draft, we seem to have got pretty solid relief pitcher and a starting pitcher to kind of bolster that rotation, like I mentioned earlier, and a bunch of outfielders to make outfielding not a priority for the next future if these guys pan out. We haven't signed them yet, so we don't know what the ratings will be, but we definitely will find out later on in the episode and kind of see how these guys will turn out to be. But our team, we are who we thought we were. We are middle of the pack in our division, and that is excuse me, and that is honestly only because somehow the Diamondbacks and the Rockies are worse than us. We are about 15 games under 500, and that is also pretty much as far as we are from the Dodgers and the Padres into getting into any playoff chances. So at this point, we're not looking for anything like we saw with the trade for Trevor Rogers. We're in rebuild mode right now. We're in my mind, we're pretty much in Nationals territory. Like, we are trying to build this team from the ground up with the couple stars that we do have and couple prospects that we could turn into stars. So with that being said, I'm hoping that maybe in this off season, in the next season or two, we can make some good signings, get some good value for some players, allow some of these draft picks to develop, and get some key free agents to hopefully make a playoff run, maybe at least a wild card run in maybe a year or two, more than likely 2 years, as the plan I want to execute is going to need some more star players. We don't have that star power right now, especially batting, as Mitch Haniger is our best batter by far, and we can see what he's putting up. 222 is not going to get a cut for your best hitter on your team. But definitely looking to improve the corner infields and a lot of the pitching, and we're hoping to maybe outwit the Dodgers and the Padres, as we know they have some big contracts being distributed between the players. We know the Padres just made a bunch of key signings and trades, getting Bogarts and Tatis. It's a big deal. Soto to a big extension. Musgrove got a big deal. A lot of guys have a lot of money tied up to them, So we know they're not going to be able to make a lot of moves for a while. And the Dodgers also, paid Mookie a few years ago, paid Freddie Freeman, and those guys are aging. So the Dodgers are looking like a team that is going to falter in the next year or two. And I think that's when we can definitely take our opportunity, take our advantage to take over the division. Not just get a year or two of winning it, but just take it over. Padres definitely would be hard signing a bunch of good young guys. So definitely be hard to beat. Tatis is only like 24. Same thing with Soto. So those guys will be a pain in our backside for a while. But hopefully Machado will maybe leave or retire in the next 3 to 4 years to help us out. And I just never fear the Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies. I think we can always beat them. But we do fall short to Austin Riley, only hitting 17 out of the 19 that we needed. But as we fast forward, Pete Alonso and Austin Riley have a great battle, and Austin Riley does win it out. So at least we lost to the champ. But Austin Riley from the Braves does win it, hitting 19, 20, and 19, hitting a 450 footer. That's a bomb shot. That's a moon shot for you right there. So as we get into signing, we do definitely want to make our number one pick our first priority. And look at some of our other guys, as Pollock was one of the lowest interest guys, so definitely want to put him on there. But with Blanchard already be having such high interest, we definitely want to see if we can maybe lock him up, sign him up, since we do need a good solid pitcher. So you put him in there. We look to make a deal, see what he can do. As you guys can tell, they had to let me know, so this is a new franchise. But we do offer him $1.15 million, get it to that 70% interest, and on the first day of signing, we get our pitcher. 21 years old, 4-year junior, good signing. As we do get into the All-Star game, we look at some of the starters on both sides. Nola, Fried, Wheeler, and Kershaw round out the National League. Manoah, Bieber, and McCullers for Rasmussen, and Robbie Ray is for the American League. Our representative is Anthony DeSclafani as a relief pitcher, having a very good year with a 2.88 ERA. A little disappointed that was the only guy that made it, because obviously every team does get one player, but it does suck that is the only guy that made it. As we look at the closing pitchers for both teams, both sides, good selections. Will Smith is the starter for the catcher position at the National League, with Nick Fortes behind him, and Wilson Contreras also gets in there. Danny Jansen for the Blue Jays, that's one of them as well. Pete Alonso having a fantastic season, having 8 stolen bases already, makes it. And Vlad, who also has 5 already, is also getting that All-Star nod. Horner and Altuve are the starters at second base, with Garcia hiding out. And then Machado's also having a fantastic season with 21 homers, 65 RBIs, along with Jose Ramirez at third base having a good season. Francisco Lindor and Trey Turner, Corey Seager, and Aledmys Diaz. I guess that's the Athletics representative, along with Javier Baez. At the shortstop, Chris Bryant is the Rockies representative for the All-Star game, and Rosa Arena with 16 stolen bases as well. That's pretty good. This means stolen bases, home runs. Ryan Reynolds gets in there for the Pirates with Brandon Nimmo, who is always a show legend, hitting 340 at the All-Star break. And Mike Trout having probably the best season, definitely looking to line for MVP with 30 homers, 81 RBIs. And same thing with Soto with 71 RBIs and 21 home runs already. Gotta love it. We do sim further down and get into the next signing period. Definitely looking to lock up Lucius or Mark Duvall. Definitely want to make sure our first round pick does feel happy with the organization from beginning to end. And definitely with a needed position like left field, we definitely want to make sure we get him locked up for the future. But I'm not looking to try to spend too much money in that department. So we do hit him with the $3.6 million offer, already over what he wanted anyways. but right about where the draft value is. And we do get Mark Duvall signed, getting that left fielder. Already an older guy at 21, but hopefully he can develop rather quickly. And then we are able to get Alton Baker signed, the guy that we drafted in the 4th round. As we do look to sign the computer people that they drafted in Rich Moore and Jose Colon, which, what hilarious names. I guess Jose Colon and want more money, Mr. Rich Moore. But Marcio Bruno has the highest interest now, but Pollock we're definitely looking to lock up, as he was our second round pick, and we're definitely looking for some good relief pitching to come out of our team, as we don't really have too many prospects in that area, with Dapovich and Crawford and Rodriguez being some of a few of them. But we definitely want Pollock just due to his high potential, as his overall does line up with Bruno's, but we're looking for that high potential being at 95. And we do have 12 days until the signing deadline, so it is getting closer and closer to that end period where we definitely got to hurry up and lock these guys up. Right, so as we move on until the next period, we do just want to sim through the weeks, because we already know the team isn't getting much better. As you see, we are 41-56, going up against another struggling Reds team. We did win 2 out of 3 games so far in the series, getting to that final 4th game, bases loaded, up 4-0. They do make the comeback, but we do win 5-4. As we take a look at the box score, Ryman accidentally, we did go up, and they did get a 4th run in the bottom of the 9th, but we were able to finish it off, getting the last outs before they were able to tie it up. Sanchez hits 2 dingers, hits 2 home runs, brings in 3 RBIs on the day. We get 2 errors by Davis and Crawford. We hate to see it. All these defensive blunders. But Ross Stripling does pitch an excellent game, and Duvall closes the game out after he almost blew it. Oh, Duvall. Still having an okay season, but just too many blown saves. But we do win 3 games in a row, getting us to a winning streak at 42-56 after the All-Star game. And then after the next period, we're definitely looking with the higher interest now to get Lucius signed up. We need legendary Lucius out here, man. Looks to be a very good strikeout guy. 1.8 was his demand. We gave him 2.3. And my mans did take it, as we do get a good young relief pitcher coming out of high school. Hopefully he can turn out to be just what we expected. We do also look to get Bruno. He's only asking for $510K, so we really don't even need to give him that much. We do give him the max allotment for that position at $680, and we also get Bruno. So we get another right fielder. Probably be a minor league guy. I'm not sure if he'll develop more into the majors, but maybe at worst he can be a backup to Duvall or some of the other guys that we have coming out. So as far as the trade block, all the guys that we have remaining, we pretty much let go of everybody. Still looking to see if we can get a good deal for Conforto, as we want to let go of that big contract. And speaking of contracts, that kind of gets us right into contract extension season. Definitely looking to sign Webb back, as we want to keep our ace on the team. Duvall we're interested in, not sure, but we definitely want to ink up our future ace. So we do get him for 7 years, $140 million even, just to not lock him up until he's 33. And then we do take another look at Duvall, as we see the hits in the Ks and the home runs per 9. Sometimes his control can be a little off, which is why he's struggling this season. Definitely averaging more walks than usual and giving up more runs than usual. But we know that he'll still be a very solid guy. We do get him locked up for 4 years, $9 million, as he didn't want a longer contract at first, but which I'm surprised coming off a bad season. But we inked him up for 4 years. Trevor Rogers, with him still struggling, we did sign him to a 2-year club option just to skip arbitration, just because we knew he was going to probably get more money anyway. So we just signed to what we thought we would get, and definitely that club option makes it a little better, so we can't let him go afterwards. Or if not, we can't just sign him back to arbitration. Gives us a lot of flexibility with that. Estrada was another guy that was interesting. Power improved, but everything else went down, and his WAR right now is a negative 0.9. So we wanted to see how much he wanted. It looks like he does want roughly around $4.5 to $5 million for a year. He does have a couple years of arbitration, so we didn't look to not sign him as of now. As if anything goes too far back or too wrong, we can just go into arbitration mode and kind of just sign him through there and see what the arbitrator says. Jock's another guy whose WAR really isn't that high, but he is one of our only primary power hitters, especially versus righties. So he does was another interesting guy to look at. But after looking, he does look to want around $12.5 million. This is what happens, Giants fans, when you try to overpay guys who aren't worth it. But he is having a fantastic season with hitting the 260 and 20 homers. But the WAR is what worries me. And WAR is something that's very important to me. Same thing with on base and percentage and average. And with his WAR being 0.3, it tells me he's not as valuable as he tries to perceive. But Yastrzemski is another guy. He got to the majors late, so he is still eligible for arbitration. But right now he's wanting $6-something million, which is just crazy considering the year he's having. Not even playing every game, and he's not even hitting and getting on above a 300. But his WAR is positive, which is more to say about than the other two guys. So definitely can still look at him. Slater's another tough one with him being so poor versus righties, but he is good versus lefties, and he is our best defensive outfielder at this moment. And if we are going to let go of Yastrzemski and some other people and then let go of Crawford, we definitely don't want to let go of people to the point where we don't have anybody at the position. So we do sign Slater to a 2-year, $4.5 million offer, so he can kind of be that bench / lefty starter that can be the guy that kind of is our leadoff hitter in the future. Luis Gonzalez is another sneaky guy in our roster on our major league team. 27 B potential, hitting really well in the year, hitting 333. Wanted to ink him up for a long-term deal since his contract was so cheap, and he could turn out to be a really solid bench guy at worst with his B potential. So we do ink him up for $1.5 million. Or it looks like I think we went $1.5 million after we kind of wanted to make sure we negotiated for both sides. So we actually get it up cheaper for 3 years. And got that out the way to get a good outfielder signed on that note. Crawford was another guy, but we weren't even really interested in him. We just wanted to see if he really was interested in playing. But it looks like hopefully he might want to retire. Luciano was another future guy that we needed to lock up, as we know he is going to be that shortstop after Crawford leaves. So we signed him to a 3-year, basically minor league deal with about $850K. Curtis Mead, who we recently made a trade for a couple weeks ago in past episodes. If you guys do want to check that out, we want to sign him for the future just to at least see what his potential could be, what he could turn out to be. So we ink him up for 2 years, under $1 million. And Heliot Ramos was another guy, as we do look in a couple years. I did want to keep it just at 2 years because that's how long his eligibility is with the team. His options. His years of options. I forgot my wording, guys. Excuse me. But his years of options will be gone at that point, as that will be year 3 for him. So his contract pretty much is make or break. So we did want to give him a little bit of money and a little bit of change along the way. And we do get Diaz signed just to have some insurance at the second base position, as we don't much with us not knowing Estrada's future, and Flores is probably out the door soon with his D potential. Lamont Wade is another one that's interesting just because he is the best of the worst, as our first base is our worst position. But he is pretty still a solid guy versus righty, so we do sign him to a 1-year deal just to see what he can do for us. And then Joey Bart, with him still keeping that B potential, we're definitely looking to want to keep him around, as he could be a starter in the majors pretty soon. So we do want to get a long-term deal for him. Sign him to a 5-year, $6.5 million deal. $1.3 million. I mean, it's basically just for his minors and arbitration years, as we do see him being a starter in a couple years and playing for us there. Not a starter, at least a bench guy, as we don't have much answers at the catcher position with Perez and Sanchez. J.D. Davis is having a fantastic season, probably our best hitter other than Jock and Haniger, but getting on base and actually bringing more runs in than we expected, bringing in 40 ribbies so far. But we weren't certain on the deal because we don't know if this is just going to be his best season that he's had or if it's going to be consistent. And speaking of consistent, we're not sure if it's the same thing with Alexander. As we check, he is one of the only lefties in our relief pitching unit other than Tyler Rogers, Mr. Overpaid as we'll call him. And Alexander we're not sure on, so we do leave that contract on the table. But we do ink up Kyle Harrison because we definitely want to make sure we keep our young prospects happy, and come up for a 6-year, $2 million a year deal, capping it off at $12 million in total. So we think that's a good value deal as we lock up a young guy for 6 years. If anything, he could be our 4th, 5th guy in the rotation until he is able to get his ratings up. As mentioned earlier, the catcher position we are definitely unsure of, as Sanchez and Perez are both getting up there in years, with Perez being 34, Sanchez being 31, I believe. So we're definitely looking for more, but we definitely still need that guy for the upcoming years, so you never know. We did try to go back to see with Estrada what kind of deal he might make. He does seem to want about $4.6 million a year, but like I said, with arbitration, we might just look to sign him through that instead of giving him a contract already. But after that, guys, after we got those contract extensions out the way, definitely want to take a look at our draft picks as we get into the last day of signing. We're trying to see what we can do with Cologne, as this is the last day, so we're just going for broke, and we are able to get Cologne to get us our drafted shortstop, and Rich Moore. Let's see if we are able to get him with $350K. And we did lower it a little bit because he wasn't really worth it, and he was able to decline. So we did not get our 5th round pick, but we were able to get everybody else, as Duvall turned out to be a good prospect. But Alton Baker, 99 potential, switch hitting right fielder, looks to be very good at pretty much everything and fantastic speed. So at 53 rating, we're definitely hoping for big things out of him. Definitely a steal in the draft, getting him in the 4th round. Blanchard was another good prospect, high control, but like I said, worry about the home runs and the hits for 9. But him and Duvall cap out at the high 80s, and Duvall's already at 63, so definitely looking to be a good contact guy, solid fielder with fantastic speed, can be definitely an everyday outfielder for us. So definitely proud and happy for our draft, even a guy who can bunt a little bit. So definitely happy for our draft. Lucius we kind of slipped on, but everyone else was really good. But anyways, guys, that will cap out the video for us, as we did get that, I guess, quote-unquote generational talent. He wasn't that 70-something overall like we expect from him, but with 99 potential, definitely looking forward to big things. But that is going to be the episode for today, guys. As always, peace, love, and blessings.